Hello everyone, today I will talk about the document about leadership and incentive. It was written by these people in 2016 at Norway Economic Department. First, the introduction. This document explains the relationship with incentive and leadership. Many people think when the more incentive is given, the more people willing to take leading position. This is recorded on many data, for example, standard economics. However, incentive could affect negative effects. For example, it can crowd out any intrinsic motivation to show leadership, and evidence documented in Banabu and Trolle 2003 and this and this. And this incentive also has a social crowding out effect, like the high incentive to leader can make other people less motivated to contribute goods because of envy, or they think it is unfair, or they think disappointment that they are not leaders. As 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 shown as a picture, like this way, incentive can positive effect on leader to for provision of public good, and incentive also has a negative effect as a group, and negative effect as leader for the provision of public good. And this terminology is frequently used in documents, so let's look at it. Number one, crowding out effect. The crowding out effect is an economic theory arguing that rising public sector spending drives down or even eliminates private sector spending. In this document, it is similar to backfiring effect. Number two, social crowding out effect. This terminology is coined in this document, so let's carefully look at it. The effect that introduction of economic incentive for the leaders crowd out the motivation of other members of the group. And before we look at the experiment, I think this question is very important when we understand the document. Number one, is incentive can improve leadership of people or make people early contributor? Number two, how much compensation is suitable for leader, moderate or high? Number three, if certain level of compensation to leader is better than others in producing public goods, then why? Number four, does crowding out effect in high compensation exists? I will answer this question in the last page. So let's go to experiment and talk about this. First participant. We recruit 508 subjects in Norwegian School of Economics and a total number of 508 subjects participate in 13 sessions. And the payments given through the points at the experiment. And procedure. We make 4 treatments consists of 10 rounds of a public good game. Each round they each receive 20 points that they could either keep or invest in a public good. And each participant's return from the public good was 0.4 times the group total investment in public good. After each round, the participants were informed about their payoff in this round and about their group's total contribution to the public good. And after the experiment, they were asked some question about what motivated their contribution decision and whether they felt envious or disappointed if they volunteered but were not selected to be leader. And let's talk about 4 treatments. First, B treatment. This is base treatment. And this is standard public good game. And in this game, all group members simultaneously choose their contribution. So it is simultaneous game. In contrast to that, other 3 treatments, the participants could volunteer to be leader If more than one group member volunteered, the leader was randomly chosen among the volunteers and asked to state his contribution. The leader contribution was announced to the three other group members before they decided on their contribution. So it is a sequential game. And uh, the, the sequential game of first is NC treatment game. It means no compensation to leaders. Second game is M treatment game. It means medium compensation to leaders. Last game is H treatment game. It means high compensation to leaders. And also importantly, the leader in the M treatment and the H treatment could not use the leader compensation to contribute to public good. Therefore, the payoff of structure in the public good, like this game, is identical in the four treatments. Whether the CI is participants I's contribution to the public good, DI is a binary variable indicating whether the participant was a leader, and FT indicates the compensation paid to the leader, which depended on the treatment. We can see the result as follows. In the B treatment, the average contribution is 31.7% of the endowment in the first round, like this way, but falls to 9.9% of the endowment in the last round, which is very similar to the pattern observed in other documents. The introduction of possibility to volunteer to be the leader without any compensation, like NC treatment, slightly increased average contribution in most rounds compared to the B treatment, like this way. And offering a leader compensation, however, significantly increased average contribution relative to the B treatment in all around, this way and this way. But as you can see, too much higher compensation is detrimental. The average contribution in the H treatment is significantly lower than in the M treatment, but still higher than in the NC treatment. So we see two important phenomena in this result. First, the introduction of leader compensation increases contribution to public good. And second, too high compensation can backfire. So let's look at mechanism why this happens. As shown in this graph, in the recruitment of leader, the level of compensation had a positive effect on participants' willingness to be leaders. In left panel, you can see 23% of people volunteer in NC treatment, but 63.4 and 94.4 in the M treatment and H treatment. And in the right panel, we only had 64.4% of leader in NC treatment, but 97.1% in M treatment and 99.7% in H treatment. So, this figure shows the introduction of compensation can solve the problem in NC case. Then, we now turn to a discussion of how leader compensation affected leader behavior. As shown in figure 3, the average leader contribution in the H treatment was significantly lower than in the M treatment, whereas we do not find a statistically significant difference between the M treatment and the NC treatment, or the H treatment and the NC treatment. And also, leader compensation may affect both the selection of leaders and motivation of those who become leaders, as shown in figure 4. A high compensation attracts more free riders. In the NC treatment, there is very small share of free riders to be leader, 9.7%, but in the H treatment, almost all of them are free riders, 92.6%. So the introduction of leader compensation can change the composition of the leader in a negative way. But at the same time, leader compensation may also introduce a reciprocal motive where morally motivated leader may feel a stronger moral obligation to contribute to the public good. Therefore, the net effect of leader compensation on leader contribution is hard to predict. And next, we can see follower behavior. Figure 5 reports the correlation between the leader contribution and the follower contribution, where we observe a positive relationship in all treatments. And in most cases, followers contribute less than leaders, so leaders' contribution is like upselling for the followers. And on average, the followers' contribution was 42.6% of leaders' contribution. And social crowding out effect from leader compensation on follower behavior may affect both the margin and the level of follower contribution. In particular, leaders in the M treatment contribute with 1.67 points more than leaders in the A treatment, which using the estimate marginal response of followers translates into the 0.55 points difference in follower contributions. The actual difference in the follower contribution between the M treatment and the A treatment, however, is 1.29 points, which means that the marginal response can only account for about 42% of the social crowding out effect from higher leader compensation. This suggests that there is also a social crowding out level effect on followers' contribution. And to check this region, they conduct short questionnaire after experiment. Let's see the figure 6. In the questionnaire, we asked them whether the payment to the leader affect their willingness to contribute to the public good as a follower, whether they were concerned about inequality in the group when making a contribution, whether they felt envy toward the leader, and whether they were disappointed they themselves were not the leader. And they find that the leader compensation in the A treatment made the followers significantly less motivated to contribute than in the M treatment. It seems like this social crowding out effect is driven by envy and disappointment. Therefore, the questionnaire responses suggest that there is a social crowding out effect of high leader compensation in the sense that a high compensation makes the followers less motivated to contribute to the public good. And they want to know whether or not this effect is present at large groups, so conduct a survey in collaboration with Norstad. They surveyed 1,952 respondents from Norstad's subject pool, and the situation is how much people volunteer with no compensation in three treatments, NC and M and H. It is very similar to previous game, but we just skip B treatment. And the result is we observe that a high leader compensation caused a significant drop in the willingness to contribute to the public good, both in comparison with no compensation treatment and in comparison with the moderate compensation treatment. So this survey also shows social crowding out effect is evident. So finally, answering the question. Number 1, yes, it can increase the willingness to be leaders, as shown in figure 2. Number 2, moderate compensation is the best option, as shown in figure 1. Number 3, yes, the amount of compensation to leaders can influence on public goods, because high compensation can attract wrong leader, free riders, etc., and it has social crowding out effect, as shown as figure 3, 4, 5, 6. Number 4, yes, the high compensation can make crowding out the effect, both to personal, to leader, and to the group, as shown figure 3, 4, 5, 6. In conclusion, monetary compensation can be used to encourage public goods, but also it may create social crowding out effect. And high compensation to leaders is detrimental because it can attract wrong leaders and create social crowding out effect. And in large-scale survey, social crowding out effect is present in the population at large. So it should be implemented with care. To give moderate compensation to leader is optimal. Thanks.